Hey, I'm back. I've been gone for 9 or 10 days. It's so wonderful to be here. Hello, Facebook world, or if you're catching me on YouTube, so happy to be here. Please post in the comments below. If you're watching live, let me know where you live. Let me know what is drawing you to the space, or just say hello. It's really lovely to be back with you after I spent a week swimming with wild dolphins in a group of women who I practice spiritual leadership with. So it was a really wonderful and nourishing retreat, and also an opportunity to learn from the dolphins. So let's talk a little bit about what I learned from the dolphins. And I'm just going to talk about one or two pieces because there's a lot. And I think the big takeaway is around pleasure and play. So I just want to welcome everyone. If you are new to this space, my name is Jenny Glick. I'm a mentor for women who are in what I think of as your midlife awakening. So that might be in your 30s, 40s, 60s, whatever it is, where you're waking up to your essential nature, to who it is that you actually want to be in this world, and are shedding the clunky, muddy parts of yourself that no longer fit. And I have been a therapist for 20 years. I no longer lead by talking about my credentials because it confuses people. And people sometimes reach out to me and ask for a one-off therapy. And that's really not what I do, because what I do for you and for small groups of women is I create containers where you can be on the stage of your own life, so that you can listen more and more to your own heart and what it is internal to you that you want to express in this life. And to circle back to the dolphins, some of the many things that we have to learn from dolphins is that they are in a steady state of play and pleasure. And I know so many women who I work with professionally, especially in midlife, have never practiced a steady engagement in pleasure and play because they've been so busy striving and doing and figuring things out and hustling and really armoring themselves up with this faux masculine energy in order to be a woman in the man's world, And what happens is we create a template or a program internally where we no longer know how to engage in pleasure, or we only engage in pleasure and play when we've checked everything off the list. And if you're anything like I used to be, there's always stuff on the list. Like there's always stuff to do. And then with social media and podcasts and all the ways that we're constantly taking in information, there doesn't seem to be any time to engage in what feels good. And so one of my big take homes from the dolphins was to come back into relationship with what feels good. And I know if you're watching this and listening, you might be thinking, yeah, wouldn't it be so nice if I could do just what feels good? I can't. I have kids, or I have to work 2 jobs, or whatever your life circumstances are. Maybe you're caring for an elder parent. And here's what I want you to pay attention to. And again, I talk to my clients about this, that we have different parts that come up when someone introduces a potential new reality or timeline to us. Then what we will hear in us sometimes is the counterpoint to that timeline, especially if I really want that. Like if I really want to follow my bliss, right, quote unquote, but I feel like I can't do it for all of the reasons, then that contrary opinion or belief is going to come right up. And that's really important for you to know. And this is the place where I work with the women who I mentor, because most all of us, until we really engage in mastery around this, are going to have those contrary voices. And usually we spend the first part of our adult life listening to those contrary voices and giving our life to them, right? I know that I did that. I had a belief that because my son has an autoimmune situation in his body, that we could not move overseas because that meant that we would not be employed. My husband wouldn't be employed. And that's how we got our medical insurance. And because my son's condition requires quite a bit of durable medical equipment and other things that felt really expensive to me, I had a story in my head when I would see families who were living on sailboats or living overseas, where I said, well, I can never do that because of this. Is that true? Yeah, I made it true. Because the truth is, everything is in your reality because you allow it to be there. I allowed that reality to be my reality. So that's what it was. It's not good or bad. If you've been around here a while, you've heard me say that a lot. It's just how it is. That was the reality, the timeline that I was choosing. Totally fine. Until one day it occurred to me, what if I could figure out a way where I could make enough money to pay for insurance for my son so that we could do those things anyway? And I still had those voices like, how are you going to do that? All the things. But I held on to the reality that really lit me up in my heart. And then that became our life. So again, I'm going to say this statement again because I feel like it's important. Everything is in your reality only because you allow it to be there. And I personally was so addicted for so long to my own suffering, to being in lack consciousness, to feeling like I had to manifest it, right? I had to do the mantras and do the vision boards and make it happen. And if I wasn't doing it right, then it wasn't going to happen. I spent so much time there that I just kept recreating that reality for myself until there was an awakening, right? And this is the moment when many women find me. There's an awakening where they start seeing that that way of doing it isn't working for their souls. Yeah, maybe it's working to put food on the table and to have the number of zeros in your bank account that you want, but it's not working to be the fullest expression of who it is that you are on this planet to be a full expression of. And loosening ourselves from our internal and external programming around scarcity, fear, and lack is a process, right? And so it serves us well to put ourselves in a pod, right? Where we can learn with other women, with a guide, how to begin to embody pleasure, how to sensitize our physical bodies to pleasure, to play, to listening to voices that say, yeah, what if you could do that? How amazing would that be? And then every day, just getting up and practicing. What if I were to practice this new reality today? What if I was to throw all of my weight behind this belief that I could allow my life to be a joyful expression of who it is that I want to be on this planet? Like, that's kind of a revolutionary thought, because what that means is you will need to loosen yourself from your own addiction to suffering, which most of us have. And we have it internally. That's why those voices come up that I have had too. So I'm not holier than thou. I know those voices of like, well, must be nice. She has a, husband that makes millions of dollars, or must be nice. She has a trust fund, or must be nice. She's healthy, or whatever the comparison is, right? That comparison is part of the world belief, that we're all really steeped in. And we pull out that yardstick. And as soon as we put out that yardstick and we tell ourselves a story about how it is that can't happen for us, we now have a choice point. What are we going to listen to? And what are we going to make our reality? Because your reality is only what you have allowed to be your reality. And as soon as you decide that you can allow yourself to have an experience of a different reality, things start shifting. So the dolphins taught me about play and pleasure, as well as many other things that I'll be talking about in the coming weeks. and the value of being in a pod where you can experience that together, where you can swim with other women who are engaging in the same kinds of activities, where you can see other women who are honoring their own internal knowing, and you're seeing them shine in the world. And then I want to be more like that. That looks like fun, right? So if you don't have a daily practice of weaving pleasure and play into your life, then I would suggest that you consider doing that. Because if you don't have that practice of pleasure and play, your life is going to feel like an endless to-do list. And at some point, we begin to lose our vitality for life, our desire for intimacy and sex, our interest in being touched, our vibrancy internally. It ages us. It's not good for our health and our immune system. There are so many reasons to be engaging in pleasure and play in your life on the daily. So are you willing to allow that in? Because it's already there. You don't have to manifest it. You can play simply by standing up and like dancing around your kitchen or your office, listening to music, right? You can play with a coloring book. On my many flights home from Bimini over the weekend, I had coloring pages with me, and I sat there in the airplane. I'm a grown-ass lady with my coloring pencils, and I was coloring seahorse and starfish pictures on the plane for many hours, and it felt really good. So I encourage you to bring in more pleasure, bring in more play. If you are interested in being guided in this process, I do have one spot available for a private mentoring client to work with me beginning in August. I'd love to have a chat with you, see if you're a good fit. I will have more group salons coming open, so stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for being here. If you're here in my Facebook group and you're watching this on replay, #replay, post any comments that you might have. Feel free to invite a friend if you feel like what I share in this space would be of value to them, or share my link if you're watching this on YouTube with them as well, because there's enough for everyone. And I do believe that we're stepping into a really important moment in our world, in our planet, where more and more of us need to be led by pleasure and play, and less by suffering and just trying to muddle our way through. So thank you so much for being here. I look forward to seeing you again soon, now that I am back from the Dolphins.